3 places that the pistol will be while we're training and just for general armed citizen carrying of a firearm. Okay, it's either pointed in at the target, shooting or fixing to shoot. Okay, it's in one of the 3 ready positions that I'm going to teach you, assessing the situation and possibly shooting. Okay, or it's in the holster. Those are the only places that the pistol will be. We're going to run a hot range once we get out there. So unless I specifically tell you, hey, unload your guns, okay, they can be loaded with a round in the chamber, but just have them in one of those 3 positions. Be muzzle aware, trigger finger aware at all times. Okay? I'm not a big advocate of administratively handling guns. Okay? There are a couple times, but I think administratively handling guns cultivates bad habits. So anytime I pick anything up, even this inert pistol, I pick it up like I'm going to work and I bring it up into what we refer to as our workspace. Okay? I've got it up, it's like my head is attached to this pistol. Okay, if the gun goes down, it's like it's attached to a string, my head goes down, gun stays up, head stays up. It's a position of strength. Okay, it's a position of strength. And it keeps me awareness. I can see what is going on. Okay, there are a couple instances where we have to administratively handle a pistol, either to set up a particular type of malfunction for training, or when I tell you to go ahead and come back and top off your magazines, top off on water and that. The one thing that I will allow, and Ken, you did it earlier, is while it is in the holster, I can access the magazine release where it's at. Sometimes we have to pull up just a little bit, but I can hit that magazine release while it's in the holster and I have muzzle awareness, pull that one out, top it off to hopefully one less than whatever the maximum capacity is, and that will allow us to change magazines, do proactive reloads when the slide is forward, so there's enough spring compression left. Okay, I can top that off, and then I can go ahead and insert, hit the click, and tug it. My normal loading procedures. That's the one administrative thing that we can do. Okay, and I don't have a problem with that. What that does then is it keeps guns getting pointed at me. So, knock on wood. Okay, since I've been doing this on my own in all these classes that we've been running, I haven't had a gun pointed at me yet. When I was at the other facility, I had a gun pointed at me every class, sometimes multiple times. Okay, don't do that. If you accidentally shoot me, okay, it might be my last dying thing, but I will pay back tenfold, and I'm fairly proficient at what I do. If I don't get you, Callie will. Okay, so I'm just kidding there. We just want to be muzzle aware, trigger free aware. But if something does happen, okay, and someone is hurt, anybody can call ceasefire at any time. Whoever's closest to it, get a hand on it, keep the red stuff going round and round and not on the ground, keep the air going in and out of the 7 holes that God gave you. Okay, there is 7. Trust me, I counted them up. Okay, get my attention unless I'm the one that is injured. Okay, there's a fully stocked trauma kit that's right here. I'm sure there's probably people that have some medical equipment on them also. I'll ascertain what we need to do. If we need to stabilize, call 911. We will do that. The substation for EMS is only about 4 to 5 minutes away. If we need to, my truck has the tailgate down, the windows are open, the keys are sitting on the dash. If we have to stabilize, put somebody in the back of it and meet EMS at the front gates, we'll go ahead and do that. I will give you directions on what we need to do. If you have boo-boo, scrapes, Band-Aids, Neosporin, aspirin, anything of the such, or athletic tape, which has been a new request lately. Okay, I have that here. And also we have Band-Aids and first aid stuff in the truck and in various other locations here out on the range. So just let us know, we'll get you what you need. Does anybody have any physical limitations that I need to know about? I know about your stuff already. I know about Abner's. Anybody else have bad knees, back, anything like that? Bad knees? Okay, no big deal. It's not detrimental to anything that we're doing. It's just a lot of times what I'll do is I'll ask people, and everybody, especially the guys, and they'll be like, no. And then I will teach them how to retrieve something off the ground while keeping our head up and keeping good awareness that's out there, and then all of a sudden these injuries come out. So it's not a big deal. We just modify the technique if, you know, we have some sort of physical limitation that precludes us from doing it one way. So just keep me informed with that stuff.
Are we kneeling at all out here?
At some point we will, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Today it'll only be if we pick something up off the ground with keeping awareness. That we won't be shooting from any positions or anything.
I don't need my knee pads.
No, sir. No, you won't. Not today. Okay. Anybody got any questions or concerns on anything there so far? Okay. So we got about 20 minutes prior to lunch getting here, so I want to get a little bit in and start working those fundamentals. Two things that I want to talk about here, then we will go up on the line. The one is prepping the trigger, and we're going to do a trigger prep drill as we go up there. And we're going to do this dry. So everybody should be unloaded. If you are loaded, that's no problem. Keep them where they're at. We'll get you unloaded up on the line, and I will talk about loading and unloading procedures when the time is right for that. Okay, but the way the trigger prep drill is going to work is we're going to get in our stance. We're going to get into our stance facing the target, whichever one that you want to cover down on, with the exception of the center target, which is mine for shooting demos, and the far target to the right, because that's where Andrew will set up for his camera work. Okay, we're going to get in our good stance. We're going to get our guns out in a good two-handed grip. Okay, we're going to get parallel into our line of vision, and I'm going to have you go out to extension and find your sights. We're going to align the sights, so we're starting to work those fundamentals. Finger's going to be off the trigger, okay, until I give you a, thank you ma'am, the command of finger on the trigger and now take the slack out. So I want you, any mush that's in there until we feel resistance, we're learning the trigger, I want you to come back until you feel that resistance, okay? Now, for some of you, depending on what you're shooting, especially with Glock pistols, you will maybe feel a little bit resistance, but there's still a little bit more before we truly feel what the wall is. If while we're doing this process, the gun goes click, okay, or as we do subsequent drills and we're prepping the trigger, okay, the gun accidentally goes bang. That is not a negligent discharge, that is not an accidental discharge. We have muzzle awareness and we're doing a specific technique and drills for us to learn the triggers. Okay, so it's okay. It's okay. Muzzle's going to be pointed in a safe direction, which in this case is into that big berm that's back there. If it actually goes off or goes click, no big deal. No big deal at all. We're learning the triggers, okay? So I'll have you come to that wall, and then I will say stop, okay? Then I will say, bring your fingers outside the trigger guard. Finger will come outside the trigger guard, and we'll do it again. Finger on the trigger, take the slack out, find the wall. Stop. Come back out of the trigger guard. And then the third or fourth time, depending on what it's going to be, then finger on the trigger, find the wall, now press, 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 and get that clicked without disturbing whatever sighting system we have. That's just learning how to prep the trigger and learning our trigger systems on our pistols. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody so far? Okay? Last thing I'm going to talk about here before we go in front of the line with all of our stuff is one ready position. Okay? The first one, the high ready with the pistol. That's going to come into play initially for this first drill. And that's probably all we'll get today. Or not today, but up till lunch, I'm sorry. So if I'm at extension here, okay, all a ready position is to have the pistol in a position where if a threat presents itself, I can deploy the pistol and be able to go to work when they meet that preamble. That's all that it is. Okay? Most of them, what we want is to avert the muzzle either up or down, so we're not pointing it at everybody else it doesn't need pointed at, or until we decide that that person is truly a threat. Okay? High ready is one of them. So if I'm extended out to the target, I'm going to bring the gun in, breaking my elbows, and it's going to come up so in my line of vision, but so I'm looking over where the front sight is and where the muzzle is. But I'm not obscuring my line of vision. We're coming up into this high Sabrina Charlie's Angels thing that we see on television, okay, because this isn't a correct position, in my opinion. Some people might say it is. But notice that the muzzle is angled up. I got my elbows in. I have it staged under my dominant eye. Can you guys see it?
Got it.
Okay. Under my dominant eye. If I'm left eye dominant, I would move it here. If I'm left-handed, same thing. Okay. Under my dominant eye, so now I can see everything, process information. When it comes time to deploy the pistol, if they meet that preamble, think of it as there's a table here and a ceiling here, and all I have is that window that's here. Okay, so this is actually my workspace right now. And think of very linear, shooting that gap. I dry the pistol out, acquire my sights, finger rolls into the trigger because I made the conscious decision to engage, and I either dry fire or I live fire. I go through cycle of function, cycle of recoil. I'm ready to shoot again if I need to. I'm assessing my work for my sights so I get a desired effect. If not, finger comes off, back into the high ready here. Okay? Again, that's in that workspace. Think of your workspace as where I give a round of applause. Okay, I don't do it too high, I don't do it too low unless you're just really weird and want to joke. But I do it right here because this is a position of strength, but it also, I have a visual reference in the pistol for whatever action I'm doing. I also have visual of that wide focus or potentially narrow focus of awareness of what's going on out there because I got to process information, critically think and problem solve. Does that make sense to everyone? The first thing that I'm going to do is, because my gun is loaded, I'm going to draw, don't worry about the draw stroke, but I'm going to get it up in my workspace and I'm going to go through the unloading procedures because that's going to come into play several times throughout the class or classes and shortly here today, probably right after lunch. So I'm just going to write down here because I'm muzzle wear, trigger finger wear, I can draw my pistol out, I can bring it up into my workspace. Okay, when we go to unload the pistol or whatever the firearm is, first thing I need to do is hit the magazine release, remove that source of feed and stow it somewhere. Take the magazine out. Okay, I'm just going to put it in my pocket for now. And I'm going to lock the slide to the rear. Okay, notice the round fell on the ground. I don't care about it. We'll give you ample opportunity to pick it up later. Okay, lock your, don't try and catch it. Don't flip it up in the air. Don't try and cup it. Okay, which you see people do. Because what happens is if we don't do that correctly, and most people don't, it gets knocked back in there and the ejector hits the firing pin, the round goes off in your hand, it's not captured, and guess what? We lose digits on the battlefield here, or on the range, and we don't want to do that. Just let it go to the ground. I'm going to do an inspection of the chamber, the slide face, and the magazine well. Okay, now I know the gun it's empty. We can let the slide go forward in whichever method you want to, and I'll talk about that later. Okay, and then I can go about whatever it is I'm going to do. That's how we unload. I'll get to the loading procedure and how we make it hot here in a minute. Okay, but the first drill that I want everybody to try, and we'll get everybody online, and not try, but we're going to participate in, get everybody online and make sure that their guns are unloaded or unload them, and then we're going to do this trigger prep drill. So with that, I'm going to step here and I'm going to face this target, and I'd like everybody to get to a point where they can see. And actually, I'd like everybody to come on this side, on my left side here, my support side, because I want you to be able to see my trigger finger. Okay, I want you to be able to see my trigger finger. Okay, so everybody knows that my gun is unloaded. I'll even verify it again. Okay, in the chamber, slide face, and the magazine well, I'm going to let it go forward. I'm going to get in a good stance. Okay, I'm going to get in my good fighting mobile stance. Okay, I'm going to acquire a good two-handed grip, and I'm going to aim in on the target. So the sight alignment, sight picture that we talked about, and all those fundamentals. I'm holding the gun, I'm aiming the gun, and I'm getting ready to shoot the gun, which in this instance, belay my last, forget what I just said. We're not going to shoot quite yet, but when I get to that point, I'll be dry firing. So I got the sights aligned, I've got it on the number 10. Okay, I'll say put your finger on the trigger, take the slack out. We're going to come to there, and now watch how much my finger moves until we feel resistance to the wall. Did everybody see that? So here off, here on the trigger, here to where I get resistance at the wall. And then I will say stop. Okay, finger outside the trigger guard, and we'll come out, finger will come outside. Same thing again, finger on the trigger, take the slack out, and stop. Finger outside the trigger guard, we come back, and then at number 3 or 4, okay, I will finger on the trigger, take the slack out, verify your sights, and smoothly press through. Okay, my sight stayed in the number 10. I got that click for all of us because we're shooting semi-automatic pistols and it didn't go bang. It won't go through its cycle of function. I'm going to tell myself that I'm doing something different. This is an administrative action because I have to recock it. Administrative action, and then we'll go back to finger outside, sights aligned, finger on the trigger, take the slack out, hit the wall, and stop. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. If it goes click when you don't mean it to, no big deal. If it goes bang later on as we're learning to prep the trigger and take the slack out, okay, it's okay. Muzzle are going to be pointed downrange. Does anybody have any questions on it? Okay, let's cover down in front of a target. You can either leave your hearing protection and go ahead and acquire a good two-handed grip, get in a good fighting mobile stance. Okay, feet about shoulder width apart, your strong foot back. Okay, a little bit of bend in the knees, up on the balls of our feet, and then go ahead and aim in on the target and align your sights. Align your sights on the number 10. Everybody's looking good, everybody's looking good. As we get shooting, relax our tongue. Now, fingers on the trigger. Take the slack out. Find the resistance or the wall and stop. Go ahead, as I say it, you go ahead and do it. Fingers on the trigger, take the slack out, find the resistance to the wall and stop. Good, relax, take your fingers out of the trigger guard. Find a spot up on the frame that if you get scared and we squeeze our hands, that it doesn't automatically come back into the trigger and go bang, or at least we minimize that. Okay, go ahead and aim in on the number 10 again. So we're working all those fundamentals. Finger on the trigger, take the slack out, feel the resistance to the wall. That's okay. And everybody else stop. Good, Ken. So we had a click, no big deal. Finger outside the trigger. Do we have another click? Fingers outside the trigger and kind of relax. Bring it in just towards you. Keep muzzle oriented down range. Shake it out just a little bit. Okay. So we had a couple clicks. That's okay. We're learning where that resistance is. We're learning our guns. No big deal. All right, here we go again. Aim in on the number 10. Good. Fingers on the trigger. Take the slack out. Verify your sighting system is in the 10 and smoothly press the trigger to the rear. Good. See what kind of movement we had. Now administrative action. Go ahead and recock the gun. Run the slide. Wonderful. There's some certain physiology that goes in our body, and this isn't a physiology class, but everybody here has had somebody jump out and scare them before, right? Okay. What did we do? Somebody jumps out and scares us. You know, unless you're ninja. Okay, but most of the time we turn towards what it is, our hands come out like this, we open both our eyes, and we a lot of times scream. Okay, if you're me, I probably pee a little bit.
Almost punch you.
What's that?
Almost punch you.
So, we're using what the body does through its physiology when we're working with what they call the limbic system and adrenaline in that. Our stance is based off that, because if I want to do this already anyway, now all I'm doing is bringing my hands together and putting a pistol in there. So where I'm going with this is some people will advocate locking the elbows, or Ken and I talked about it yesterday. It comes from the Marine Corps guys, but they'll turn their elbows in to lock this in and get the bone structure. That is one thing I don't advocate doing, because if you shoot, it will give you stability, but if you shoot too much, you will eventually blow your elbows out, and we don't want to do that. You know, we want resiliency throughout our life in recovery. So where we're at as far as extension and how much bend we have, because these arms are like a shock absorber. It's almost like a triangle. I got a little bit of shock absorber. As the gun goes and I'm controlling with my hand, that slide should be reciprocating back with the energy transfer of the felt recoil into my hands and forearms, that shock absorber, and I have minimal rise of the pistol. So it's a little bit different for everybody. I've done drills before where we get extension modulation to see what's optimal for people. That's not this class, but sometimes it surprises folks. They've been shooting like this for a long time, and we bring it back just that much, okay, and their performance has gone up exponentially. So my point in it all being is that everybody's a little bit different. But does that kind of answer it, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions, anything up? Do you understand the context of that particular drill, where it fits in what we're doing so far? Okay. Anytime we do an action, no matter whether the action is good or bad, we build and develop a neural pathway, or pathway what a lot of people call muscle memory. And every time we continue to do that action, whether it's good or bad, we strengthen it. And that's what we end up defaulting to when the time comes, especially under an adrenalized state. So if we shot a bunch of targetry that had an X-ring in the center that's at the center of mass, and I've been telling you, hey, shoot high center chest. If we add a little bit of complexity or stress to something, or heaven forbid that you're in an altercation, guess where we gravitate towards? Where we've been practicing, because we've developed that pathway, even though it's not the most optimal place. So I've got these two different targets that are up here that represent the anatomy, and I want to talk about them because it's important for us. So we need to do things to get the person that's trying to do us great bodily injury or death to stop doing it to us or to somebody else. So we're shooting because they met that preamble to pull the gun out of means intentability. I want to stop the threat. Now, a desired result might be that they fall down and maybe eventually expire. That's not my goal. Sometimes it just happens. Okay, they might throw their hands up and run away, because I ballistically altered their behavioral pattern. okay, or maybe they quit or what have you. But I want to get good shots, and I want to stop the threat in the least amount of rounds possible. Because as we talked about in the classroom, pistols are poor fight stoppers, so we have to get good and multiple high center chest hits. And what I mean by that is from the nape of the neck down to the armpits and across the nipple line. So up in here where we have good things. Heart, lungs, big vessels. Okay, and we've got a good target, nice big target area there that gives me a little fudge room if when I'm a bit rattled and our groups open up a little bit, we're still in the good spot. So if you come up and look at both of these targets at some point or throughout the day, we can see here, we've got heart, lungs, the big vessels, and see how high they sit in the chest. This caricature one here is kind of the same thing, okay? So that would fall under the category of what we call a timer, okay? Because I can put 3 or 4 really good rounds up in here and perforate the heart and the lungs and everything else, and they might be dead, but they just might not know it yet, okay? So I might have to continue on. If we go up to the head, or potentially the pelvis, the head or the spine, okay, the spine box, CNS type of shot, that's what we would consider a timer, okay? So if I put a round up in here and I have the penetration that I need, I get a CNS shutdown, and it's just like I flip off a switch, and the thread is done there. That can be done instantaneously, but we have to know where it's at. The head, and the reason that we aim towards the high center chest most of the time, if that's what we have available, is because it's the biggest area. The head is relatively small, and you can see it on here in the scoring rings on this one. It's really just right above the eyebrows, across, a kind of an upside down triangle that comes down to the tip of the nose, or right where our mustache would be if we had one. It's that area in there. If we were going to make it circular, it's about a 5-inch circle. Down a little bit lower, we've got bony structures in our cheek. We've got a bunch of space here, especially with pistols. We might not have enough penetration to get back to the spine, so it can get caught up in our sinus cavities or in our mouth and then get deflected off. Or on the top, on our nugget here, we got hard bone. Okay? So we got to get in the good spot here if we're going to take that shot. Also, the head is constantly moving, so I need to soften them up or maybe think about other areas. But maybe that's all I got. We have to understand the anatomy. Like I said, I know 2 guys that were personally shot in the head that underneath their helmet, and it hit the hard skull, and this is with rifle rounds, and it zipped around the inside of their helmet. Now, it rung their bell, don't get me wrong. Somebody had to grab them and get them under a piece of cover, but they were fine. After they got the cobwebs out, they got back into the fight. So we've got, when we're targeting, we have to be very precise with what we want, knowing that anatomy will help us. And then the pelvis. We're not going to talk about the pelvis now. We'll talk about that in subsequent classes and how it can be a viable target with a pistol, but there's a lot more that goes into it. We're not going to get into it during this class. It'll be later on. So I just want you to understand where this stuff is, and when I'm referring to the high center chest, when we switch to the bottle type part of the target, or we go to more realistic targets later on, so you can visualize and think about this. This is just me if I'm standing face on. If I start to get off to an angle, and Sean, if I can borrow you, okay, and if I'm standing face on, we know this is high center chest, okay, or right in the headshot in the face. If I get off to an angle here, now I have to think about where does the good stuff, the anatomy, lie in here, or if I end up angled back off and I can still articulate that they're a threat, where do I need to put my sights and my bullet to get the penetration to make him not a threat anymore? Okay, so having just a rudimentary understanding of the vitals and the anatomy of a person, as it gets dynamic and we have a more realistic target, or we find ourselves in an altercation, we have the ability to know where I need to put my sights and bullet to stop the threat as quick as possible. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, I come together again and work the third ready position, because I teach 3 different ready positions throughout this series. For those of you that have trained with me with the rifle carbine stuff, you're going to notice some commonality, because they're pretty much the same as the rifle with the pistol. Okay, so does everybody remember the high ready, where it comes My elbows come in, I bring it in, muzzle is averted up, I'm looking over the top of the muzzle in the sight so I have awareness, and in this case, I'm locking my eyes on the number 10, which is what we're going to be shooting at, and I present it out in a very linear fashion, parallel to the ground in my line of vision, acquire my sights, and then we're either going to dry fire or shoot in this particular instance, okay? So what the 5-in-1 drill is everybody's going to be unloaded, which everybody should be now. We're going to verify that initially. If you loaded back up at lunch, we'll get you unloaded. Okay. Once we've cleared that it's unloaded, or checked that it's unloaded, we're going to get into that high ready position. We're going to do 5 dry fire presentations, prepping the trigger as it comes out, acquiring our sights, and applying the fundamentals as we talked about them this morning. Okay. It's going to go click. I have to do an administrative action and reset, just like we did with the trigger prep drill, okay? You can say out loud or say to yourself, administrative action, rack it, hands back together, and then back into that high ready and do it again. You're gonna do that 5 times. Then you're gonna go through the loading sequence, which when I demo this, I'm gonna teach you my particular loading sequence and why we do it, okay? Or why I teach it, I should say. You don't have to do it that way, but it's why I teach it, okay? Everybody then will take an obligatory, and I know when everybody loads because everybody does that. So I know everybody's getting ready to shoot. And nothing changes from the dry fire to the actual firing of the live round. Again, same presentation, prepping the trigger, finding the sights, applying the fundamentals. Gun's gonna go bang, cycle of function, cycle of recoil. It comes back down. My sighting system should go right back to where I originally intended the bullet to go. My follow through, I assess my work through my sights. Okay, then we're going to bring it back into our workspace and we're going to go through the unloading procedure that I showed you guys this morning. Okay, we're going to do from the high ready, the 5-in-1 puppy belly drill 3 times. Okay, so just from the high ready. So we get a lot of practice here. We get 15 dry fires presenting from the high ready and applying the fundamentals. We get 3 loading procedures. We get 3 live fires, and we get 3 unloading procedures. So a lot of work when we shoot 3 whole rounds. Okay, we don't have to shoot a whole bunch of rounds to have a lot of benefit. This particular drill helps you do that. It's a drill I got from a guy named Reed Hedrick up in Valor Ridge. Okay, it's a great drill. That's why I incorporated it. So
nice earrings.
He won't shoot you.
I promise.
Thank you.
Like I said, this isn't to inundate you with gunfire. This is just so you can.
Yeah, but they swing more, don't they?
Don't worry about the target. Don't worry about the target, okay? We can look at it after the fact. Okay, so the one other addition that I'm going to put here that I didn't talk about fundamentals is because we are in a controlled environment here, okay? You want to set yourself up for success. We can check our natural point of aim. And what that is when I'm in my stance and I drive the pistol out, okay? When the gun goes bang, even as counterintuitive as it is, when that mini explosion goes off in our hand, every muscle in our body relaxes for a nanosecond. So if I don't have my toes, hips, and shoulders aligned directly on, and my center line on, say that number 10, but when I check natural point of aim, and I'll tell you how to do it here in a second, when I'm over here and I muscle it over, when the gun goes bang, it moves over there because that's naturally where it wants to go. Okay, so we can check our natural point of aim, set our feet and keep them that way to set ourselves up for success and start to build the pathways that we need for the system and the foundation that we're doing. Because sometimes people will ask me, they're like, well, you say the gunfight is a dynamic endeavor. Well, yes, it is, but in a controlled environment, if we practice and set ourselves up for success and understand that my natural point of aim is set here, I take a mental note of where it is and I continue to train that way and practice. When I'm adding tactics, apply tactics to it and moving around when I set my feet, I'm more intuitively going to go into this natural point of aim. So how I check that is I get into my stance, I drive my pistol out, I align my sights, and then I close my eyes and I take a couple deep breaths and I let everything relax. Now I'm not worried about up and down, excuse me, I'm worried about left and right. If say I'm to the left, I need to move my toes, hips, and shoulders so that it's more in line, and then I do the process again. I want that sighting system generally lined up when I relax those muscles at the number 10. Once I figure that out, keep your feet locked in where they're at, don't move them, and then we're going to do the drill. You okay? So from here, I'm gonna bring my pistol out, I'm gonna bring it into my workspace, I'm gonna lock it, I'm gonna double to the rear, and I'm gonna double check that it is clear. I'm checking the chamber, the slide face, and the magazine well. Everything is good there. Slide is gonna go forward. I'm gonna get a good two-handed grip, and I'm gonna check my natural point of aim. I'm gonna drive it out and find my sights. Since I'm not shooting, finger is not on the trigger. Now that I have my sights aligned on the number 10, I'm gonna close my eyes, take a couple deep breaths, open them, and see, is it to the left or to the right? I was just a titch over still in the circle to the left, so I'm gonna just move just a little bit, okay, and I'm gonna do it again. Okay, now I'm good to go. I'm gonna keep my feet set, making a mental note of where they were at, okay? I'm gonna acquire that two-handed grip, and I'm gonna come into the high ready, okay? I'm only gonna do like 3 dry fires. Y'all are gonna do 5 just to expedite this so we can get y'all doing it, okay? So I'm here, gun comes out, finger goes on the trigger because I made the conscious decision to engage. I take the slack out, I confirm that my sights are still in the number 10, I'm gonna smoothly press the trigger to the rear. Okay, click, I look to see where my sights are, they were still roughly in the 10. Finger comes outside the trigger well, administrative action. I'm telling myself something different so I don't work it into that pathway or that muscle memory that I'm cultivating. Administrative action, it's reset, I acquire my grip, and I come back to the high ready. Now I'm gonna do it again. Gun comes out, finger rolls into the trigger, I take the slack out, I confirm the sight, smoothly press to the rear. Administrative action. Back into my bubble, I'm gonna come back into the high ready, same thing again. Drive the gun out, finger rolls into the trigger, I take the slack out, confirm the sights, and smoothly press through. Administrative action. I said I was only gonna do 3. So now we go through our loading sequence, bringing the gun back into my workspace so I keep my head up and I keep awareness of what's out there. I'm going to acquire the magazine. I run my index finger next to it because I've been sticking this finger up my nose for 50 years. It goes where I want it to. Okay? If I need to make a target glance at the magazine well, that's fine. My peripheral vision shifts out to the greater part of the world. I insert and tug. Number 1 type of malfunction is failure to seat the magazine. That's why we download by 1, especially when the slide is forward. Okay? If I insert and tug, I get rid of the main cause of that malfunction. Then I have to run the slide. I can either come over the top, I can turn and pinch it. If the slide is to the rear, I can hit the slide release with my strong thumb, or as I'm building the grip, I can hit it with my support thumb. I don't really care which one you do. I happen to turn it over, pinch it, I run it forward, and everything is good. I come back into that high ready, that obligatory. Okay, now we're ready to go. Nothing changes. Drive the gun out, finger rolls into the trigger.
Here's.
Thank you. What am I doing? On my head. Thank you, thank you.
Luckily, it's a self-resolving problem.
It was, yeah, you normally only do it once. So I'm back to here, okay, drive the gun out, roll my finger into the trigger. Okay, I confirm my sights now that I'm at the wall, smoothly press to the rear. Okay, gun goes off, cycle of function, cycle of recoil. I'm back on at the wall, everything is good. Finger outside the trigger, I come back to that high ready, and then I go through my unloading sequence. Drop the magazine, take it out, stow it, lock it to the rear, check it, etc. Okay, and round stayed in the number 10 where I wanted it to go, even when I was talking. So
that's incredible. You were fishing for it, so I gave it to you.
Thank you. No, it's just luck. So check to see that they are clear. Go ahead and let your slide go forward, and then keep them out of the holster. Keep them out of the holster. After we wipe our hands down.
I know. I need to get some of that chalk.
Listen, you can tell it's a new recoil spring.
That's okay, no?
Oh yeah.
I just replaced it yesterday.
All right, go ahead and acquire that good two-handed grip. That good two-handed grip, get a good stance. Remember, if your right hand, the right foot goes back a little bit more than shoulder width apart. Weight on the balls of our feet, tailbone center. We're aiming and dry firing and shooting at the number 10 circle. Okay? Get them up in the high ready. I'm going to touch you. Break your elbows. Go ahead, relax. That right there. And then if we go forward, the left leg. Right there. Good, excellent. From the high ready, the 5 and 1 drill, times 3. Go ahead and begin.
The book answer.
I know you do. Good, Em. Good.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Yeah, you're good. Remain relaxed, okay? And then I just want you to open your legs just a little bit. Okay. I'm going to turn your hips, okay?
Okay.
And then move that leg over. Okay, good. And then we're just going to lean into it just a bit. Okay. Now what I want you to do is I want you to put the sights on the number 10. And then I want you to listen to my voice and do exactly what we're doing, okay? So now put your finger on the trigger. Start to take the stock out until you feel that resistance and then stop, okay? Now make sure that the front sight is in the center of the 10, okay? And now go with my voice. Press, 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 press. Good. Finger off of the trigger. Look at that. We're in the 10.
Good shot.
Nice.
You did it. See,
Hoorah!
You can get excited. It's okay.
you did great. Let's bring it up into our workspace. Let's take the magazine out. So press that magazine, stick it in your pocket, and get the round out of the chamber. Just let it drop to the ground. Okay. How you doing, Sean?
Good. This is a brand new gun.
Sure.
That's fired 3 rounds only.
Okay.
So the trigger is really stiff, so I keep going down.
Okay. Can I see the trigger real quick? Just let me check it out. Sure. Yeah, just hand it. That's okay. Just hand it over. It'll be good.
What's that?
So not a whole lot of take up on it, you know. So until we hit that wall, it's right there because of these straight triggers. What I tend to do a little bit is I get a little bit more towards the tip of my finger, okay? And just what I want you to say to yourself is press, 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 press until it goes either click or bang. And you'll get a more consistent trigger press to the rear, and that will kind of get rid of that anticipation. We all anticipate a little bit, but we won't be like, okay, now, and we drive the gun forward. Yeah. Right? So go ahead and load it up for me. Load it up for me. Yep, insert and tug. And go ahead and aim in on the 10.
You guys want to...
Okay. And finger on the trigger, verify that that front sight is still there, and then just go with my voice. Press, 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 press. Look at that, we're in the 10 now. It's like magic. Good job. Let's see the difference so we consistently push it back. And there's a little bit of resistance there, but a lot of the resistance is coming mentally.
Yes.
Because it's a new gun and it's a new trigger.
Yes.
So go ahead and unload
was
it.
so soft, I knew exactly when it was going to go off.
Yeah. And but you're going to get plenty of practice with this, so by the end of the day, you'll know that trigger. Look at you guys go.
I'm making them just stop.
No, excellent. Good, good, good. Excellent. Looks very nice. Looks very nice. I'm gonna unload my gun because I left it loaded before, and I'm gonna need to do it for the next demo anyway. Running. Yep. Bloody stance on the ground. So again, stance and everything stays the same. If I was aimed in on the number 10 here, that low ready or confrontation ready is keeping it at extension but averting the muzzle down. Okay, averting the muzzle down. So when a threat presents itself or identify that it's a threat, I'm going to snap the gun up into my line of vision on a very vertical axis that's coming up. So it's going to pop up, I'm going to acquire the sights, take the slack out of the trigger, verify the sights, make sure that the situation hasn't changed, and this all happens within a nanosecond, and then the gun goes bang if it's appropriate. Okay, with this low ready, as I'm doing it, how far I avert the muzzle down is dependent on the proximity that I am to the person. Okay, because I'm out at extension. What I want to be able to do is I got to gather information. That's why I call it the confrontation ready a lot of times, because I'm giving commands, I'm trying to gather information. So we want to think about the hands and the belt line. Okay, the belt line is where bad people keep bad things to do bad things to good people. Don't worry, you don't have to repeat that. It took me about 6 months to get it all out without getting tired. Okay, so if I'm closer, if I'm up here, and say we use those 1-inch squares that's representative of the belt line. Okay, when I get closer, I got to avert the muzzle down so I can see those things and decide whether they're a threat or not, and maybe give verbal commands. As I start to move back, now I don't have to avert the muzzle down any farther, or not as much, not as severely as before. Okay, so that proximity dictates how far I got to avert the muzzle down. The reason I only want to avert the muzzle down minimally, or so I have the ability to see the belt line, is because the farther down I get, because this position is very fatiguing, so the longer I hold it, fatigue sets in and I start going lower and lower. But if a threat presents itself and I go to pop it back up, I got to fight inertia as I'm going on that vertical axis as it's coming up, and I might overshoot it. And then I have to come back down. We talked about that cycle of initiative and the decision-making process. If I've done something like applied tactics to get to the point where I can get the gun out, or I'm given verbal commands and now all of a sudden something happens, I might be ahead on that cycle of initiative. If I overshoot it because of inertia, guess where I went on that cycle of initiative? On the backside, now I got to do something to make up, because time is of the essence now. I need to shoot. So by only averting the muzzle down for what we have to be able to see what we need to see, I can snap it up and I don't have to fight that inertia. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. I'm just going to do a couple dry fires here. I'm not going to do the live fire, but just so you understand how we come up from the low ready position or confrontation ready position. Okay, so I'm aimed in. I come down to here. I'm going to use the 1-inch squares for here. So now I've got my muzzle averted down, I got my eyes locked on the number 10, my finger is outside of the trigger. I'm going to bring it up, I align the sights, finger roll in, I take the slack out, I confirm the sights, and I smoothly press the trigger to the rear. Administrative action, I rebuild that grip, I'm back into my bubble, I drop it back down. Okay, as I pop up, I made that conscious decision to engage. As sights align, finger comes into the trigger, I come back to the wall, I confirm the sights, smoothly press the trigger to the rear. Administrative action, so on and so forth until after the 5th one I go through my loading sequence and then do it live fire. Okay, does that make sense? Has anybody got any questions on that? Okay, we're going to do that times 3 again. Times 3, so we're getting again a lot of work.
Wow, what a difference it makes when I listen to him.
Imagine that. It's like your husband actually knows what he's doing. 40, 80, 160. Look, a dinosaur.
So mainly we're doing the same thing. Belt line. We're doing the same thing as we did last time. Just at the belt line, you do high wood.
No. The belt line is where we come down for low ready confrontation. Then we snap it up. There you go. So still at the number 10. Stay on the number 10.
You like that pea shooter?
Yeah, she's doing good.
You like that pea shooter?
My pea shooter? What do you
I'm not being derogatory toward it. Your pea shooter, it's a gun. You know what a pea shooter is, right?
I taught her how to hold a gun.
No, I've never heard
And I
of a pea
made her hold
shooter.
every gun
I do
before.
3, Ken.
You like it?
I'm not doing anything
I
else.
like my gun.
It's a good gun.
So with it though, like I said, we get a lot of work, and we didn't. What did we shoot? 6 rounds.
Something like that.
6 rounds, but you got
Money
however
to take again.
30 dry fires. You got 6 loading procedures. You got 6 unloading procedures. You got 6 live fires. applying the fundamentals, doing all the things that we spent all that time me flapping the gums this morning with. And if you look up and down the line, which I know everybody does, is we look at the results. Okay? Even, and Sean, I'm going to use you as an example. Okay, and everybody kind of look down this way. This is yours.
What's your example right there?
Sean?
Yeah, that's
Okay. I'm just going to use Sean as an example here. It doesn't really matter. So, you know, our goal was to put it in the 10 here, right? And this is about a 4 1/4, 4.5 inch circle, something like that. So when we were talking back there about the vitals, okay, nape of the neck down to the armpits and then across the nipple line, if we're going to make it circular, it's about an 8-inch circle. So this is about half the size. Okay, I always like to put these things into context when we're out here and we're training, because the smaller we go on these things, and I gave you some waves in here, Sean, just to add realism, as the wind didn't help this morning, but they can be disheartening really quickly, especially if we're not hitting whatever we're aiming at, especially these little 1-inch cubes that are down here. So if we take even some of these Aaron shots that are here, and we take all this and we superimpose it, knowing that he's aiming at the 10, so that would be representative of hopefully somewhere in here, and we move it over to my chest, would those be acceptable shots, even ones that weren't optimal for, you know, particular drill? Yeah, they're good. So we always want to put things like this into context so we understand. And when I go up and down the line, everybody here has good shots. We hold the gun, we aim the gun, we shoot the gun. Okay, but then the subtasks that go along with that. And then we came down here and we started to apply those fundamentals of marksmanship with the trigger prep drill, so we understood and learned our trigger, and with that we're applying gripping the pistol, our stance, aligning our sights, all those other fundamentals. Okay, and then we moved in, well, we had lunch, and then we moved into, we taught you the high ready position, the low ready position, and we did it with the 5-in-1 puppy belly drill. Okay, so we've actually covered quite a bit of ground, even though we might not think we've covered a lot of ground. So you all have established that firm base already, and we're just going to keep adding to it. So because we've stepped down that path and decided to become an armed citizen, hopefully we're all going to carry a gun concealed. And if you're not ready for that, or if you haven't gotten to that point yet, that's okay. That's okay. But when we do carry it, we have to carry it hopefully on our person somewhere, or maybe an off-body carry, which later down next year, Callie will be able to talk all about that, because she's going to a really cool course that she was selected to go to from 1 out of 6 people for an off-body instructor course. But anyway, so we'll be carrying it on our person. So we have to be able to access it once the bad folks, whoever is coming after us, meets that preamble, means intent and ability. Okay, so where we carry it, and if you notice, I don't talk a lot of equipment in this class. I used to. We're going to do some videos that'll be up on our YouTube and on the website net, talking more about equipment, but I kind of got away from it because when y'all come to a class, you look at what the equipment list is, and normally you've got the stuff already, so you have what you have, and we might as well learn to run what we have. And then if you have any questions about equipment while we're here, I'm more than happy to answer them. Okay? But everybody here today showed up with a gun, magazines, eyes and ears, a good belt, and a holster, right? And maybe some type of mag pouch. If we didn't have a mag pouch, we got a pocket. So you're running pockets, right, Abner?
No, I just put it in the tech pocket of my pants.
Yep. Okay.
Still pocket.
No, yeah.
So the answer is yes?
Pocket is pocket.
Oh, I thought you said pouch.
So it's a pocket.
No, it's
Here's
okay.
a pocket. I got
There you
pockets
go.
in my pants.
I got pockets in my pants.
It doesn't really matter, but everybody here's got a holster, so now we have to figure out. Now we have to figure out how to access it, so that goes into the draw stroke, okay? So let me see what we got here. We got
Edit that out.
Appendix. What are you running today, Abner?
Appendix.
You appendix? Okay. I asked him because I know you run a couple different things, so we're running appendix. And strong side for Callie.
For tech,
Okay, it doesn't matter. You can try them both. Okay. So I'm running appendix here, so I'm going to talk draw stroke on appendix first, and then I'll talk draw stroke on strong side. I'm going to do it without clearing the cover garment, then I'm going to talk about clearing the cover garment, because the whole point of if we have a handgun carry permit or a concealed carry permit is, now I know in the state of Tennessee, and I believe Texas is the same, they have open carry law.
Yes.
Okay, we have open carry law here in Tennessee. I am not an advocate of that. Okay, I don't want to stack the deck into the bad folks' favor. That's it, favor. Thank you very much. Tongue-tied. But if I'm going to carry a pistol, I'm going to carry it covertly or clandestinely, so nobody knows that I have it until it comes time for it to come out. They meant that preamp. Okay, so I'm going to have a cover garment, and I'll address those in a minute. I've switched over to my blue gun, so even though I'm going to try not point it at anybody, if I do inadvertently point it so everybody can see, it's just an inert pistol. Okay, so when I go to access the gun, and when we have it with an inside the waistband holster, whether it's appendix or whether it's strong side, okay, as opposed to an outside the waistband holster, I do it a little bit differently, because a lot of people will say, you know, the first part of the draw stroke is acquire a good firing grip or a master grip, right? Well, if it's an inside the waistband holster and I wrap my thumb around it and try and get a full master grip on the pistol, here or over here, okay, this thumb comes over and provides friction that slows down getting the gun out. Okay, so once they've met the preamble and the gun comes out, I got to do it kind of fast, quick, and in a hurry within my abilities, because time is of the essence and my life relies on it, or potentially could rely on it. Okay, now I'm not a big fan of putting arbitrary numbers on how fast your draw stroke to first shot or second shot should be. Okay, the situation dictates how quick we need to be, and we're also talking applied tactics in that. So, but I don't want to interfere or slow it down any more than I have to. So I keep my thumb flagged on the back. Okay, if I have a really high beaver tail, I can bring it over to the side, but I'm not curling it around to get a full grip. Okay, this goes for same thing strong side if I'm here than inside the waistband. It actually goes the same if you are an outside the waistband. Yes, we can acquire a full master grip on it, but I still leave that thumb flag for when this comes out. I leave that piece of real estate for my support hand to be able to come in. Okay, is everybody following me so far? Have I lost anybody? Okay. So, now sometimes we have a hard time curling the three amigos under, depending on how deep we set our holster on the inside the waistband, especially with appendix. Because the lower that we get it, the closer it is to the belt, the more concealable it is, but it also doesn't give me any real estate to get my fingers in there. The higher up I get it, the more my gut pushes it out. It feels like it's going to flop out all the time. I can get a good grip on it, but it's less concealable. Okay? So one of the things that we can do, and this comes from a guy named Scott Jedelinsky, the modern samurai, so Jedi, thank you very much, is once we curl our fingers under, okay, leave that thumb flagged on the back, I'm going to stab the gun down into the holster and use the inertia as a springboard effect. And this works either appendix or strong side, inside or outside the waistband. As it comes up, and I'm going to use this little hallway here. You don't have to move because it's an inert gun, but if you want to, it's fine. Okay. But as it pops out, I'm going to orient the muzzle towards where the perceived threat is. Level the gun off, my hands are going to come together, and we're going to do the same thing that y'all have been doing. Build a two-handed grip, gun is parallel to the ground, and I'm going to drive it out into my line of vision. That's all it is. Okay. Notice I didn't do any numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4. I used to teach like that because that was what was taught to me and how we thought we had to do it. But what I found is when we teach by the numbers, as the military says, people couldn't get out of that robotic counting. And it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and they would never get away from it. I just want to work with efficiency, which will lead to quickness eventually, but I just want to flow through it. It should be just one motion until I make the determination and the gun goes bang. So, once again, I decided the gun's going to come out. Okay? My fingers are going to curl underneath. I'm going to flag that thumb. I'm going to press down, stab it in the holster, use that springboard effect. It's going to come out. I'm going to level it off. Hands are going to come together, and I'm going to drive it parallel to the ground and in my line of vision. Okay, my support hand, which I hadn't mentioned in this. Okay, we don't want it hanging out into space because we don't know where it's at. I might inadvertently flag myself. So as I start the draw stroke process, my support hand, whichever one it is, gets stuck on my chest unless I'm clearing the cover garment. When I clear the cover garment, it's still coming to the center of my chest because this is where my two hands are going to come together. When I get to here and I go to put it back in the holster, I'm going to bring the gun back in. My support hand is either going to clear the cover garment or come back to my center line. And now this is the one thing, especially as an armed citizen, that I advocate. Okay? The only thing that is different is I am going to, as I revert the muzzle down, I am going to look into the holster to ensure I have a clear pathway and that my finger is not on the trigger. And look it into the holster. For appendix people, we can bend our knees and rotate our hips forward. So if the gun inadvertently goes off, I don't hit anything vital that is in here. I just put a hole in my britches. Okay? So,
And your pride.
and I probably got to get new shorts after that. So
For more reasons than one.
for more reasons than one, yeah.
It's easy Christmas shopping.
So the putting it back in the holster is just the draw presentation in reverse, with the one difference of I look it into the holster. Because let's think about this, because some people will be like, now military and law enforcement, that's a little bit different animal, and there is a very small chance that I still have to keep eyes on, but we get through this altercation. Everything, we've gone through the mental checklist, which we'll talk about a little bit later with the why protocol or fast protocol. I'm scared, I'm adrenalized, law enforcement is coming, bless you. For us, when the gun comes out, when I go to put it away, it's because I hear the sirens and I don't want to be shot by responding law enforcement, because they just have very limited information. Would we be scared in that instance? Yeah, you're absolutely going to be scared and fearful. Okay, I want to look it into the holster because I don't want to make it through this deadly encounter and then shoot myself. So we ensure we have that clear pathway, we ensure my finger isn't on the trigger, and I look it into the holster so it gets back here and I don't shoot myself. Because if you are involved in an altercation, okay, I would like to hear about it later so we can debrief and talk about it, but if you end up shooting yourself, you're going to lose a whole lot of cool points. I'm going to find out about it, and then I'm going to make fun of you. After I find out if you're okay in that, but then I'm going to make fun of you. Okay? So,
And I'll probably join you.
It is
Yes.
well warranted.
yeah, it is as well. The class where we started addressing this, she thought I was just lazy because I never buttoned my bottom button, but what that does is, Ken, if you grab those, just grab the ends and pull them apart. There we go. See, now he's got a little bit more on the shirt because a button-down shirt tends to be restrictive if it's untucked and we have all the buttons down. So now he's got a little bit more play. These type of shirts have a little bit more give, but that would be a closed type of.
That worked fine on that one.
It's
This
okay.
is an extra large shirt.
You got extra, yeah. Sometimes we dress around the gun.
Yeah.
But that would be a closed type garment also. An open type garment would be if he would unbutton all of that, or in the wintertime when we start talking vests or jackets or things like that. With an open type garment, appendix doesn't work as well because the whole point is to cover it up and be covert and concealed. So if I have it open and I have my gun here, then now I'm actually an open carry. But a closed type of garment, and when we're looking to clear the cover garment, what I want people to have is a very robust and reliable system to get it out of the way. Okay? There's all kinds of ways that we can clear the cover garments, but if I have the faculty of both hands, okay, I want to use both hands because I want to ensure that this robust clearing method that I'm trying to guarantee here is as close to 100% as physically possible. Some of the other ones fail, and if it only works 80% of the time, and the other 20% I'm like, mulligan, I don't get to do that out in the world. I don't get to go tactical timeout. Let me get in my gunfighter stance and have a do-over. Okay, so I want my clearing my cover garment as robust and reliable and consistent as possible. So the first way, and I'll show appendix first and then strong side, is I'm going to take both my hands, I'm going to come down, my eyes are locked where the thread is and where I want the sights and bullet to go, but my hands are going to come down, grab as much material as possible, and I'm going to aggressively tear it up as high as I can get it. Now that I'm here, support hand stays, can keep it out of the way, this hand can come down on the gun and I can start to affect that draw stroke that we just talked about. Okay? A lot of the other methods, I might miss it. If we wear different cover garments, we have different lengths. So again, building that routine at the beginning of the day, and I get that practice draw stroke out, clear my cover garment, I check the status of the gun, and then I clear it and put it back in. There's some benefits to that, because if I have a different length, because I could have 3 different polo shirts out here, and one would be here, one would be up here, one would be down here.
And the belly ones you have.
And the belly ones that I have. And then they've got these, you know, for the new millennials that are out there, the untucked shirts, which are cut shorter because they're not supposed to be tucked in. Okay? So, again, grab with both hands, aggressively rip up. Once I get to here, support hand stays here. I establish that master grip, stabbing it out of the holster. I want to point just to your left abner with, I have an inert pistol. Okay? Comes up and out, level it off, parallel to the ground in my line of vision. When it comes time for me to put it back in, because I've chosen to put it away, so I'm hearing the sirens, I bring it back to here. This hand comes off the grip of the pistol. I reach down, I grab as much of the garment as I can. I pull it back to my high center chest. I avert the muzzle back down. If you want to, bend your knees and roll forward. And I'm going to ensure I have a clear pathway. My finger is outside the trigger guard. And I'm going to look it into the holster. And then I can replace my cover garment. Okay? Same thing if it's on the side. If it's on the side, both hands are going to come here. I'm going to grab with my support hand. Once I get to here and aggressively rip up, it's like a windshield wiper. This hand comes off, and I'm going to pull it to the center of my chest. So I'm here, and I'm pulling it to the center of my chest so my hand can come down either to my touch point or straight down onto the pistol. Acquiring that grip, stab it, up level it off, drive it out. When I go to put it back into the holster, when I come back to here, this hand is going to come underneath, pull it back to my center line, look it into the holster. Let your cover garment go back. If I have an open garment, okay, we can take and run a hand on the inside, throw it back. I can use my support hand, come behind, give it a pull. I found actually a really cool illustration in Casey something. It's an older book from like the 40s of him showing, yeah, grabbing and pulling. And but we can reach and get that out of the way if it's open, and it'll allow it to come out of the way. But again, the premise is we want to clear the cover garment out of the way so I can access the gun and get it out without it being fouled. Does that make sense?
You can also put weights in those corners.
Yeah, you absolutely can.
So it'll fling.
Or if you have pockets, you can put keys or quarters or something like that in there. So if I'm in an open garment, when I flick it back, it'll get out of the way, and I pin it with my wrist, depending on where it's at that point, to keep it away from the gun. But yeah, I've known guys that have taken quarters and sewn
a quarter into
the bottom. I'm not saying that you got to go to that extreme, but it will work. It gives you a little weight to get it out of the way.
50-cent piece.
So
Yeah, don't be chintzy and put steel washers in, because when you wash the shirt, it'll rust.
yeah, yeah.
That sounds like experience.
No, I just
And
experiencing classes, watching people with that kind of thing going on.
And so the last thing when we get into inclement weather and we start wearing vests and jackets and things like that, a couple things. Like fleecies and that, especially where they have the bungee drawstrings with those little things. If you are going to wear that jacket and carry a firearm, I highly advocate cutting them off, because they will get into the pathway of your holster and they get into your trigger guard, the gun inadvertently goes off. So I cut those off. The other thing is inner pockets, especially if I'm strong side carrying and it's open. I take and either sew or take a piece of
double-sided tape.
Yeah, double-sided tape, 100-mile-an-hour tape, duct tape, and tape it closed. Because if I flip it out of the way and I'm strong side, guess where my hand goes as I go to access my gun? Right down into the pocket. Okay. So I want to close that up. And then if we're going to add some weight in there, what I don't advocate doing is taking your cell phone and putting it in that particular pocket for weight.
Yeah.
So if I flip it out of the way and I'm involved in an altercation at some point at an appropriate time, I might need to dial 911, and I don't want to have it on my strong side. I want to be able to access it with my support side. So I put my keys or something like that in there. I don't care what the length of my cover garment is, because they both grab so much material and get it out of the way that I don't have to worry about it. Some of the other techniques that are out there leave the material dangling and it can foul our draw stroke, or I might miss it completely and have to start back over. Well, when time is of the essence, okay, I want to be as robust as possible. Right? So again, come around so everybody can see. We're going to do for y'all the 5-yard line. I'm going to do it here, and we're going to do the number 9 now, because everybody's got a clear number 9 on your targets. Okay? If we want to draw out and aim in on the target and get our natural point of aim again and get that set before we start the drill, that's fine. So I'll just do that now. So I'll clear the cover garment, I'll draw it out, I'll get my pistol, I'll check my natural point of aim, closing my eyes, taking a breath, looking left and right, moving just a tidge. Everything's good. Now my feet are set. I make that mental note of where they're at. I'm going to clear my cover garment, look it back in. Like I said, I'm going to do 3 dry fires in my loading sequence and live fire. Where we put our hands is kind of irrelevant to me. Practice different spots. If we want to have them up in a non-threatening position, maybe I'm doing a verbal recording trying to manage that person that's trying to encroach on me, that's fine. And that's how I'm going to start here. So I'm here. Okay, now I'm going to clear the cover garment. Both hands come down. Notice I got my eyes locked where I want my sights and bullet to go. I'm going to aggressively rip up. I'm going to stab the gun out of the holster. I'm going to find my sights. Finger's going to roll into the trigger. I'm going to smoothly press to the rear. Okay, administrative action. Get back into my bubble. I'm going to come to here. Now I can look down, clear the cover garment out of the way, look it into the holster, put it back, and do it all over again. Now this time I'm going to have my hands at my side. Okay, I'm ready to go. Clear the cover garment, stab it out of the holster, roll my finger into the trigger, verify the sights, smoothly press to the rear, administrative action, back into my bubble, bring it in, clear the cover garment, look it into the holster, ensuring I have a clear pathway, my finger isn't on the trigger. And the last time, hands are up. I'll use Scott Jetelinski's. I'm going to clear the cover garment, stab the gun out of the holster, roll my finger into the trigger, take the slack out, verify the sights, smoothly press the trigger to the rear, administrative action. And now while it's out, I'm going to bring it into my workspace so I have a visual reference of where it's at. I'm going to access that magazine, insert and tug, run the action. Everything is good. I'm going to clear the cover garment, look it into the holster, take my obligatory deep breath. Whew. Hands are going to come up here and everything is exactly the same. I'm going to clear the cover garment. I'm going to stab it out of the holster. I'm going to roll my finger into the trigger. I'm going to verify that the front sight is there. I'm going to smoothly press the trigger to the rear. Gun goes through cycle of function, cycle of recoil. My trigger is reset. I'm assessing my work through my sights. Finger outside the trigger. Bring it back into my workspace. Unload. And then clear the cover garment with your support hand. Look it back into the holster and then continue on. We're going to do the 5 and 1 times 3. So 3 iterations again. So 15 clear the cover garment or draw, just the draw with dry fires. 3 loading sequences, 3 live fire, 3 unloading sequences.
Trying to break bad habits here.
I get it. I get. We all got them, myself included. Good girl, looking good. When we clear the cover garment, when we put it in, I know, you know, I'm not a girl, so I don't have certain things. Get it up just a little bit higher so it doesn't follow us. You know, I'm not saying expose anything, but if we just go to here, then chances of it getting in the holster as we go and getting in the 9.
Is your optic off?
No, I shot at the 10, not the 9.
Dude.
On purpose or?
Absolutely an accident. I pulled an Abner, so.
I mean, was it an accident?
Oh no, I
You were
purposely
aiming
shot
at
at
the
the
9
10.
and it went to the
no,
10.
No, I purposely shot the 10.
That's
It was the
okay.
camera.
That's okay. Was
The camera made him nervous.
Went in over there by the 1.
Okay, then we'll give you that one, man. We'll give you that.
Let's do it again
Nice
on the
pea
9.
shooter you have there, ma'am. Miss. Sorry, miss.
Okay, remember, as we come out in the flag, you can make no contact. Good, good, looking good, looking good.
I'm giving you a hard time.
I was gonna say, oh my gosh, did I get that far off from where I was? Okay.
No, you did good. Even seeing you shoot, you probably crank down with that just a little bit, which engages your fingers, which turns it down just a little bit. No big deal. Still a great shot. Still a great shot. Everything continue on.
Yeah, I'm just now putting the tug back in. Good, good.
Looking good. Looking really good. Is that all three?
Yep. I'm not going to do anything else.
You can keep going.
Oh, good.
That's. I'm not here to criticize. Good. Excellent. Everything looks great. Everything looks great. Remember. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to shoot these things, okay? And we just have to overcome this fear, because all of us think when we first start this that if I don't hold this gun, it's going to go jumping all over the place, okay? I'm going to shoot this gun holding it with this finger and this finger. That's it, okay? So I'm going to hold it here. It's pointed in a safe direction, right? All I got is with these two fingers. That's it, right? Now watch. Tell me if it goes jumping and flies over the roof back there, okay? I got the slack out of it. I'm not looking at the sight, so it doesn't matter. Did the gun jump out and fly over the roof? Nope, it absolutely did. Hey, now watch the difference when you've got two hands on the gun, right? I'm going to put two hands on the gun. Tell me, does the gun move? I'm doing all the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and take the slack out of it. I'm going to confirm the sight. Did it move? Hardly at all, right? Hardly at all. Because I got two hands on it. And now we know that this mini explosion that's happening, whether it's me or you, or I'm holding it with two fingers, it ain't going to go anywhere, right? So don't be scared of it. Own it. Own it. All right, draw your gun out.
We're like, yes, I was going to go, oh, this guy, his buddies.
Go ahead and aim in. All right. You got the front sight on the number 9, right? Okay, finger on the trigger. Okay, deep breath. Put my finger on top, okay? Just keep it on the 9, just relax this finger. Let me press, okay? Keep it on the 9, 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 relax. Okay, we're still up a little high. So what all concentrate on that, that's it. Because what you're doing is you're trying to look to see where you're hitting, and you're moving the gun as we move our head. Okay? So all I want you to do until the gun goes bang, comes back down, and everything else, look at that dot on the 9. Okay, finger on the trigger. Okay, you got it? You got the dot? That's your whole world? That's your whole world? That's your whole world? Keep it on there, keep it on there, easy, easy. Watch the dot, 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 watch the dot. Let me see this gun first. Okay.
No, it's just me.
So, but that's okay.
That went up.
Give me a high five. Give me a high five.
Have you shot a 17 before?
Yep. That's exactly what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have you shoot my gun.
Here, have her try this one.
Sale for $3 million. I was like, you guys need to buy this right now. And that's why I don't have the network to buy this. You guys need to buy this. What is it? They went up for sale for $3 million. It's the land, and it's developed for RVs. I was like,
grab this sucker.
All you guys have to pull together, so it would be a million, right?
You may find that a larger handgun is easier for you to shoot because it gives you more to hang on to.
So let's make sure your grip is all good. There you go. Excellent. Keep that space, just like you got it right there. Okay.
The trigger on this one is smoother than what you're accustomed to. Okay.
And then you pay the
so we're going to still do the same thing and me help you press the trigger. Okay. And I'll explain when this round goes where we want it to. I'm going to explain why, okay? Okay, get that good stance. Okay, feet a little bit wider, just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now, you got a little red dot on this one, okay? So, go ahead. We align the sights the same way, okay? You got it? Okay? That's your whole world. Concentrate, just keep it on the 9, okay? Finger on the trigger, just touch the trigger. I'm going to come over the top of it, okay? Keep watching the red dot. Just keep watching it, just keep watching it, just keep watching it, just keep watching it, just keep watching it. Ooh, now finger off that trigger. Look where that round went. Why do you think that happened? Okay. Because the smaller we go with the gun, the smaller the grip, the harder it is for us to hold on to. The more felt recoil we have, the shorter the sight radius, so it's harder for us to align the sights. When we took Abner's gun, we have more that fills our hand. We have a longer sight radius, which makes it easier to do this, okay? And then we get better success. Now, I want you to press the trigger all by yourself at extension in the number 8. Okay? And do the same thing. Okay? Good. Spin around. Find that red dot, keep it on the number 8. Okay, finger on the trigger, firm, and then press. Not bad. Remember, let it come up, come down, let that front sight come back there again. Shoot one more. Finger on the trigger. Okay, take a little bit of slack out, confirm, and that whole world. Good, do it again.
Good job.
Roll your finger in. Whole world. Okay. Remember, smoothly press through, and then let that come back. But see how much better that is? Perfect. And you can control the gun better, can't you? One more time.
I don't know. At the 8?
Yep, at the 8.
Okay.
I also pointed out, point the gun out. If you can get your support hand there, there's a shelf right here for your
I don't
thumb.
think your thumb's long enough.
Oh, they're not? Okay.
Even if she really...
Even if she were to do, okay.
Okay, roll your finger in. Okay. And press. Excellent. Finger out.
That's really good.
The gun. Look at that. Dead center in the 8.
That was really good.
This isn't bad. You need a guy who's in the box. But he doesn't listen. We're like, stop.
Good.
Good.
So what we're going to do, hand that back to you, Abner. Thank you very much.
You're going to be broken and old. Have nothing to show for life.
Because this gun, since it's so small, it's hard for you to shoot. It's really hard for you to shoot. Step down the path to become an armed citizen and carry a gun covertly or concealed. We a lot of times tend to try and go smaller and smaller with the guns because they're easier to conceal. They're easier to conceal. And a lot of times we think, the smaller gun, the easier it's going to be to shoot because it's easier to conceal and all, and it's exactly the opposite. So what I highly advocate is that carry the biggest gun that you can comfortably conceal and run with that instead of going into these smaller micro guns because they're a lot harder to shoot. The smaller the gun, the smaller the sight radius, the less material and weight there is to it, the smaller the grip, because most of these micro guns are only 6 or 7 rounds unless it's a SIG, what the heck is that thing? 365, which are a little bit bigger, but they're still a pretty small gun. But a lot of people go into the 365 XL, which is a little bit longer sight radius, because they're just hard to shoot. Not that we can't shoot them well, it's just a lot harder to apply the fundamentals. The bigger we go in a gun, the more forgiving it is, and when we have a good experience, like we just did with a little bit bigger gun, then we have smiles and we're happy. So I don't advocate everybody do this, but going along with that theme of carrying the biggest gun that we can conceal, I carry a Glock 34. Y'all have seen when I shot the demos how long the barrel is on that. And for me personally, in appendix, I believe the longer the gun, the easier and more comfortable it is for me to carry. So if I carry a 19 or a smaller gun, I feel like it's falling out, it digs into my hips and all that. We have to look at the holster that we want to run and the accoutrements that go along with it to keep it concealed. But we can easily do it. Like I said, I carry a 34 I carry it almost all the time, whether I'm in, a polo shirt like this, a t-shirt, button-down shirts or whatever, and can do it because I've got the correct holster. Now that took a long time to figure all that stuff out, and I've got a whole foot locker full of holsters.
The bin of shame.
Yep. But so hopefully, if you have questions, please bring them up to me, and we can help steer you down that path. So maybe you don't spend a lot of money and have a lot of holsters in the whole box. The bin of shame, is that what it's called?
The bin of shame. Yeah.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to continue to work the draw stroke, and this is just going to be real easy. I'm going to give you a threat command, and we're going to move to the high center chest of these M3 targets. So right here, now this box is big here, but you'll notice that there's a dotted line halfway through it. I want you to keep the rounds in the high center chest box that's up here. Okay, and so we're going to start off just with single rounds, okay? Just like you guys were doing, but now this is all going to be live fire. And then we're going to progress to more than one round, so 2 rounds, or I'll give you a prescribed number of rounds. And we're going to do that for a few iterations, and then I'm going to add something else into it. Okay, so just so you know how it goes, and you all can stay right there. You've seen the draw stroke now, but we're going to do this from the 5-yard line. I'm just going to shoot it from here, so I'm in front of everybody. And I'm just going to do a single round draw stroke to the high center chest, and then I'm going to do one with multiple rounds, okay? Enough rounds for this. I'm going to have my hands here, and I'm just going to shoot a single round, and like I said, it's going to be on the threat command. So nice, smooth, and efficient. Okay, watch, it's one fluid motion. I'm here. Threat, I'm going to clear the cover guard, stab it out of the holster, it comes out. Okay, good, I'm going to assess, and for me, I'm going to scan. In this instance, because I'm getting low, I'm going to proactive reload. So I insert and tug. Good to go, clear my cover garment, and it's going to be looked back into the holster. Okay, now I'm going to do multiple rounds, and I'll tell you what I want you to shoot. In this instance, I'm going to shoot 3. Okay, so how many sight pictures or sight alignments do I get if I'm shooting 3 rounds? 4. Yep, 4 of them, right? Because I got to let the gun cycle, function, cycle, recoil, it settles back down, and I assess my work through my sights, my follow through. Okay, so I'll end up getting 4 sight pictures. So again, I'll have my hands at my side here, my feet are set, I've got my eyes locked where I want to drive the sights and bullet. On the threat command, I'm going to draw out and shoot 3. So threat, clear that cover garment, stab it out of the holster, gun comes out. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. I'm going to assess and scan. And then other things that we'll add on those layers or complexities later. In this instance, I'm going to clear my cover garment, look it into the holster, and everything is good to go. Okay? But we're just going to go through that cycle of accessing the gun, clearing the cover garment if we happen to have one, and drawing the pistol and presenting it out or employing the pistol for whatever the prescribed number of rounds. All right, everybody good to go. All right, one single round from the draw on the high center chest on the threat command. Lock your eyes where you want your sight and bullets to go. Smooth and efficient. Threat. Threat. Can make sure. Threat. Woo! Good job, girl.
Hell
Yeah!
Do it again.
Yes! Look at that smile!
Make a smiley face.
Look at that smile!
Good job.
Good job.
Well done, young lady!
Everybody's doing well. Everybody's doing well.
Hoorah! You are launching freedom downrange! She's come a long way.
Stories will be told for years of your exploits.
All right, single shot again. Single shot again. Everybody keep your eyes focused where you want your sights and bullet to go. Threat.
That's because we didn't know where these were at. We're looking at that instead of painting.
That's what I'm doing.
Yes.
That's what you're saying, is I'm looking at that instead of this.
Yes.
Okay.
Look at that. All right, success. We figured it out. I broke the barrier. Look.
Okay, I think I know what I'm doing.
All right, it's all coming together.
One more time.
This,
I still don't have it, and that's my husband.
this right here
A long
proves
time.
the efficacy of the training module.
Yes, this is why he does it.
All right, single round. Single
No, it
round.
isn't, dear.
It's a
You
week.
both do it.
Thank you.
It's okay. Put your front sight back on there again.
Yeah,
Put your
looking at the side.
Yep. Put your finger on the trigger.
Okay.
Okay. Take the slack out.
Nice.
Press.
It's like you've done
It's
this.
like I've been doing it for 5
See how
days.
we're looking over the top of it to see where it's at? You gotta let the sights go right there.
Ah, not even realizing it.
Threat. Excellent. And then back in. Good. And back in the holster. Good job. Good job.
Look at that smile. She's doing well.
So folks, like I said to some of you at the beginning, this is your all's class. Okay, I'm just here to facilitate and kind of hopefully impart a little bit of knowledge and experience to you, but it's your class. You all drive where we're at. You have the fundamentals now that, and we're not stopping right now. We still got another hour. We're going to continue through that hour. But if we stopped right now and you all left here, think about all the things that we talked about. One of the, I think, is the most important thing is having a good protective mindset coupled with that spectrum of awareness so we can hopefully not be in a fight. But if we are, you guys know the fundamentals. You had the ability to draw from the holster and apply those fundamentals. You have a ready position. So do you have the tools that if you were to leave here right now and we were to stop and somebody came up to you and they met that preamble, means, intent, and ability, and tried to do you harm or somebody that you care about harm, could you protect yourself? Yes. Yeah, you absolutely could. You absolutely could. You might not realize it, but you have the tools to be able to do it. So we're just going to continue to refine those, add things to it, add some complexity and more realistic stuff to it, and continue to build that firm base. So with that, we had a couple people as we were doing this go to slide lock and do what they call an emergency reload. Okay, they just reloaded because they didn't have any more bang bangs in it, so they had to put bang bangs in the gun so they could get back into it. And we'll get to emergency reloads, but we know statistically that anywhere from 3 to 8 rounds. So if we're not carrying a micro gun, a little tiny one, even if we're at the far side of that 8 rounds, we probably won't run dry. Now adrenaline and stuff, sometimes we might shoot more than we intend to. We have no idea how many we shot, and that's no big deal. But if we stay within that parameter of 3 to 8 rounds, unfortunately the one thing is that most of the time the attackers aren't just one. Okay, the way that things are nowadays, bad folks travel around in packs. So, but even if we dealt with just that one, and that particular problem set or fight is over, there might be still something coming. Okay, so we want to top the gun off so we have as many bang bangs in there as possible until we figure out what's going on and we can hand the situation over to law enforcement and they arrive. Okay, so how do we do that? If we carry an extra magazine, which I do highly advocate, a couple things that I advocate: carry the biggest gun that you can comfortably carry and conceal. Okay, and the second thing is carry an extra magazine. Not for the fact that, so both my magazines carry 17 rounds in them. So what's that? 34 rounds if I top them all the way off. 32 rounds because I'm down on one. Do I think that I'm going to need 32 rounds to come out in an altercation? No, I absolutely do not. But the failure point on semi-automatic pistols, the weak point is the magazine. Okay, now we should take our magazines and test them, make sure they're reliable and they function and everything, and then have a set of magazines that are for concealed carrier, covert carry, and then have some extra magazines for when we're training, because we drop them on the ground, they get beat up and that, and so I want to relegate them to training. But I know that sometimes that's not always financially feasible for us. So we can have that weak point in the magazine and it can induce a malfunction. And a lot of times it's a magazine-induced malfunction. If I don't have another one, then all I've got is a club. And we can close with and beat them with that club and then hopefully decisively disengage, run away. But if I can just carry an extra magazine, I might be able to do a proactive reload, emergency reload, or get rid of the bad magazine and put a new one in and be able to continue to take care of that problem until it's not a problem anymore. So the way that we do this is, and why I teach it first, is a proactive reload. We'll get to emergency reloads, but proactive reloads, because I just want to keep the gun up and running with as many bang bangs in it as possible. Okay, is everybody following me so far with that? Okay, so there are several different ways we can do it. Here's the task. Okay, here's the task is when we decide to do this proactive reload, or what a lot of people will call a tactical reload, is we have to remove the magazine that's in it and put a new one in. So we're down to a one-shot wonder. We want to reduce the time that it's at a one-shot wonder to as minimal amount of time as possible. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is not because I'm in an active fight and now I've got to put more bang bangs in there. That would be an emergency reload because I run out of bullets for whatever reason. But I'm doing a proactive reload. I'm being proactive. I'm choosing to do this reload. So that means I'm not actively in a fight. Maybe I'm behind a piece of cover, okay, and there's a lull in the action. I'm just getting myself prepared for if there's another fight that comes. Okay? So how we do that, I'll give you some different techniques. You can pick one that you like, or if you've got a different one, like I said, follow those principles and concepts and understand the end state is try and keep it to a one-shot wonder for minimal amount of time, but get a fully loaded magazine of ballistic pills back into the gun. Okay? So I'm just going to face this way. Sean, you're good right where you're at so everybody can see. Where we carry that magazine, it's really dependent on you. I carry it in a magazine pouch. Some people put them in a sidecar or an extra magazine that's attached to the holster with appendix. In the pocket like Abner's doing, it doesn't really matter. I like to put my bullets forward because again I can reference it with my index finger, okay, and I can use that as a pointer to get it in the magazine well. If you want to put them bullets back and pick it up like a beer can and put it in there, that's fine too. Gross motor movement, it doesn't make a difference to me. It doesn't make a difference to me. So if I want to retain the magazine, so I draw the gun out, I'm going to bring it into my workspace, and now I've chosen to make this proactive reload. There's a lull in fire, I've made this decision. Okay, got to hit the magazine release. Depending on the length of my hands, I might have to turn the gun a little bit to hit the magazine release. Heck, I might even have to take my support hand up and hit it and capture the magazine, or let it drop to the ground depending on if I'm going to discard it or not. Okay, but as it comes back into my workspace, my support hand is going to come, those same cover garment clearing techniques that we talked about come into play. To get it here, I'm going to pin it, and now my hand is in place to access this magazine. What I do is I take the magazine and I shift it between my index finger and my Tennessee driving finger with the base of the magazine in the meaty part of my hand, so I have the most control of it. Because when I'm in an adrenalized state and my fingers turn to flippers, I want to be able to control this. I'm going to use as pinchers my thumb and my index finger, so when I hit that magazine release, retain this magazine if we choose to, and now I'm going to swap. I'm going to insert, use my thumb to tug it to make sure that it's locked in place, and then I can stow this partially used magazine back in a pouch, or if we don't want to put it back into a pouch, we can put it into a pocket or whatever. If there's some rounds in there and it's the only other magazine I got, and it's still a good magazine, I'm just going to put it in the pouch. Gun's back up and running. Now I've got 17 rounds back in the gun, and I can continue to assess my situation. Notice the whole time I did that, my head was up because my gun was in my workspace and I was looking at all of you all. Okay? So I want to keep good awareness, that spectrum of awareness. If I need to do a target glance here to get it into the magazine, well, that's fine. My peripheral vision just shifts. Okay? So one more time on it, finger along it, I do that transfer, insert, tug, and I'm going to put that back in. The whole time I got my head up. Now I can acquire a two-handed grip and I can continue to assess my situation. Another way that I can do it is I can come and instead of putting it between my index finger and middle finger, I can keep it in the pinchers between my index finger and my thumb. With my index finger and my Tennessee driving finger, I can hit that magazine release, acquire that, insert and tug, and now it's back and it's topped back off again, and I can acquire a two-handed grip. Second technique. Third technique, when we get into emergency reloads, if we want commonality, we can do that. So the gun's out here, I bring it back into my workspace, I keep it up and down, my support hand clears the cover garment, goes to this magazine. As I hit the magazine release, discard it, let it drop to the ground, insert and tug, and now I'm back up and running. If that's my favorite magazine and I want to pick it up, okay, I can see that in my peripheral vision, or I can do a target glance. Now I put my foot on it, I've got a tactile reference of where it's at. I want to try and pick this up with keeping my head up and being muzzle aware, so I don't point the gun at myself or anybody that doesn't need it pointed at them. I can bend down, follow my leg down, grab that magazine, stow it, stand back up, and the whole time I'm assessing my situation. And now I've got my favorite magazine back in my magazine pouch. Okay. Last way that I can do it, and it keeps this, minimally keeps this to a one-shot wonder, similar to the one that I just did. I can bring it back into my workspace, I can acquire this magazine, I can get it up next to the magazine well, hit the magazine release, or actuate the magazine release, let it drop, insert and tug, and we saw how quick that was. Then I can do a target glance where that's at, put my foot on it, bend down, pick it up, and stow it back into my magazine pouch. Okay? So 4 different ways of doing it. All tactically viable. I really don't care how you do it. Okay? like I said, you know the principles and concepts, you know what the end state is, stay within that. But if you've got a different way, it doesn't make a difference. Once again, I'm here, I get that different felt recoil, I gotta clear the magazine well, access the other magazine, insert, tug, drive it forward, drive the gun out, and assess my situation. I'm gonna do a proactive reload because I've got a round in the chamber and I got a magazine in it that's got rounds. Proactive reload. So now I've got a round in the chamber, I got an empty magazine in the gun, and I got a magazine with bullets in my pouch pocket or wherever we're gonna keep it. I'm gonna look it back into the holster. So on the threat command, we're still shooting high center chest. We're gonna clear the cover garment if you have one, draw the gun, employ it until it goes dry or goes to slide lock so we can understand that different felt recoil. It should be one round. And I have to say that because one time somebody did exactly what I told them to do. I was like, shoot it until it goes to slide lock. Well, they never did a proactive reload and they had to shoot 15 rounds before it went to slide lock. They did what I told them to, but so it should be one round. Then we're gonna execute an emergency reload. Okay? Once you execute the emergency reload, we're gonna shoot 3 shots in the high center chest. Okay? Take a breath after we get that forward sight picture, clear your cover garment, look it back in the holster, bend down and pick up what you dropped on the deck, looking left and right, having good awareness that everybody is muzzle aware, okay? And then we will get the guns back out in our workspace, conduct a proactive reload, then it's set up again, okay? I know it sounds like a lot, you'll see it in the demo, and then I'm gonna talk you through it, and it'll be easily digestible then. Dry the gun out, emergency reload, okay? Assess and scan. We'll get to that part in a little bit. I'm gonna pick up that magazine, stow it, or hold it in your hand, then we're gonna draw back out in our workspace and we're gonna do the proactive reload. So we get a chance to do a little bit of everything in that drill. Everybody should have a round in the chamber and an empty magazine in the gun, and then a fully loaded magazine, or at least magazine with bang bangs, in a pouch or pocket. Okay, on the threat command, we're going to draw out. Should experience slide lock. Conduct an emergency reload. Shoot 3 rounds to the chest. Once you get the forward sight picture, clear the cover garment, put it in the holster, and you can retrieve the magazine off the ground and put it in your pocket or in your pouch. All right, here we go, everybody, nice and slow. I'm right here, I'm gonna talk you through it. I'll talk you through it as we go. All right, here we go. Threat. Draw out. Grip. Slack out. Now drop the magazine. Get your magazine. Up and in, insert and tuck. Good. Hold that grip. 3 rounds in the chest. Remember, slack out each time. Confirm the sight. Nice and easy on that trigger. Slack out. Right. Nice and easy on the trigger. Press. Slack out of the trigger. And now come back in. Go ahead and clear your cover garment. Look it into the holster. Threat. Go, finger outside the trigger, clear your cover garment, leave it low, and hook it in. See, when we let
I know what it is. I know what it is.
Good.
Okay, I know what it is.
You got it. Pick up your magazine that's down on the... All right, everybody looks like they're ready. Threat. So now we're going to put it a little bit more into context, okay? So you got a lot of tools, but now how do we link all this stuff together, okay? So I'm big on mental checklists. I think that they're important. I didn't call it a mental checklist, but we briefly talked about them in the classroom when we were discussing mindset and the spectrum of awareness. when we talked about sitting in places in restaurants and that, and I made fun of some people, not anybody here, but I made fun of some people about, I sit my back to the door, blah, blah, blah. Well, all it is a mental checklist. Okay, so when we go in a place, we're looking, always searching for cover, always seeking cover if something happens. I'm looking for exits. I'm starting to develop my action plan if something does happen, you know, playing the what if game and all that. Those are just mental checklists. But what about mental checklists when I'm involved in an encounter? Because would everybody agree that if you find yourself in a lethal force encounter, that we're going to have some fear and adrenaline, and we're going to be a little bit shaken up? You will. You absolutely will. Okay, so it's easy to get lost, right? So how we can integrate this, and y'all kind of saw me do it just because I've built it into my routine and strengthened that pathway or myelinization for medical folks that are here, muscle memory, is the wide or the fast protocol. Okay, you're already starting to do part of it. The guy that invented it is a guy named Lyle Wyatt. It should have been in your reading if anybody did some of the pre-reading. There was an article written about the Wyatt protocol by a gentleman who's no longer with us, Paul Gomez. Paul's a really good friend, a great instructor. But Lyle Wyatt was out training some Marines on the left coast with a gentleman named Andy Stanford. Andy's actually in Camden this weekend doing a surgical speed shooting summit.
Cool.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. He's come out of retirement for this particular event. But anyway, and so one of the Marines came up to Lyle and he goes, I get the fight part, but what do I do after it? And he's like, well, you assess, do you have to fight that person anymore? Then you scan around to see, is there anybody else that I need to fight? And then we've obviously expended some rounds because we've been in this fight, so we need to top the gun off and put more bang-bangs in. Okay? With the exception of the scanning part, you guys have already done the first part of the wide or fast protocol. Okay? And it's, as it went, or excuse me, and so that's how it started, and Andy was sitting back and he added 3 more T's to it, and most people refer to it as the fast protocol, but it's named after Lyle Wyatt. And so you guys have been doing the fight part. We've been employing the pistol through ready positions and the various drills and through the draw stroke. Okay, so you're already getting the fight part. They've met that preamble, it means intent and ability, and so the gun has come out. Okay, so the fight part, we should be assessing our work through our sights. Every time the gun goes through cycle of function, cycle of recoil, the sights settle back down. I assess my work through my sights. Did I get a desired effect or not? If I didn't, I'm set up to shoot again and I go through the whole process. If I did, then I go to the next part of the protocol, which is scan for other threats. So the reason it's called the fast protocol is how we spell fast. F for fight, A for assess, S for scan, okay? And then once I scan my world, and that is 180 initially, and then 360, because we live in a 360-degree world. With these threat scans, especially when we start applying tactics, okay, and I'm applying movement and that to step offline to disrupt their decision-making process, to create space, to give me time to do what I want to do, that opens up my world a little bit, because initially that one threat, if it's Hayden, this is my whole world right here. And I get that tunnel vision and a variety of other things that happen when adrenaline gets in our system. But I have to break that after he's not a threat anymore, and those scans open up my world. Plus with movement and getting offline, now I've opened things up. For us as armed citizens, for the most part, and there might be some cases out there, but I haven't seen them yet, those threats, because I'll ask people, I was like, if I just engaged Hayden, where most likely is my next threat if there's another one? Where? Over here. Over there. Or a lot of people say, well, it's behind you. And I will change that and go, how did they get there? Okay. Now, again, this is in context of armed citizen. I just haven't seen where any of us have someone hunting us where we're going to be set up for an ambush. Now, law enforcement and military, that's a completely different realm. Okay, they have people set up and ambush them all the time from behind, but for the most part with us, especially if I get that angle and open up my world, it's somewhere in the 180. Okay, when I do these threat scans, that's where those ready positions come into play, high ready or that low ready that we've discussed today. Okay, and I'm looking at that 180 and I have to process the information, so I do this slowly. Okay, a lot of people you'll see in various videos when they do their scan, it's like, can I process any information and see anything that way?
No, you wouldn't be able to see this.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. But now, when I do my scans, if I'm in my ready position, Can I see and interpret information here? Yep, and I got 3. And I got Sean as a ninja with his hands in his pocket, and you swaying back and forth. And I go low and then I go high depending on the topography out there or the urban setting that I'm in. Then I go to check my 360. And yes, it's for maybe that anomaly. Okay. Again, I want to be muzzle aware and not muzzle anybody. I normally go both sides and I do it nice and slow. But why do you think I'm looking behind me, or what's more the point of me looking behind me?
It's for that it's a second person in Walmart going, you just messed with my man.
Yep, so maybe that anomaly, okay, that's out there. But for the most part for us is somebody's normally with me. My wife, who went to let the dogs out. So I want to make sure that she's good, or that she's drawing her pistol and I can tell her, hey, get behind that piece of cover if she hasn't done it. So that, and for the anomaly, that's why I'm doing a 360, okay? Then I top the gun off. You all know how to do proactive reloads. You know how to do proactive reload. So I've chosen to do a proactive reload. Hopefully maybe I've moved to a piece of cover, but I do that proactive reload and top the gun off with bang bangs. And then the other 3 T's, some of them might have already happened, or they can, it doesn't really matter what order. So we talked about topping off the gun. Okay, take cover if we haven't done so already, or at least get a barrier between you and them, because it's a psychological thing that even if I put a bush here and we want to shoot each other, unless you've trained that way, we're going to run around Keystone Cop style and try and get the angle, even though we could shoot through the bush. So anything is better than nothing. Okay, talk or call 911. Talk because that's the next T in it. You know, tell your significant other, hey, get behind that piece of cover, hey, call 911, or get your gun out, or whatever the case may be. Okay, but that's an appropriate time then to get the cavalry coming to kind of help us, because we don't get paid to run towards gunfire, get into fights, so let's not get into any more. Let's let law enforcement take care of that. And then lastly, because bullets and pointy things go back both ways, and we sometimes in an adrenalized state might not know that we're injured, we need to do a top to bottom assessment and treat any trauma if we find it, if we have the abilities. And this is where I do my shameless plug for our Guardian Medical Essentials class, okay? Because you are way more likely to use medical training than you ever are to use your gunfighter training. Or sometimes they might work concurrently because we get injured, or somebody that we care about gets injured during the gunfight, and we have to have the ability to treat that trauma. So I don't care if you go toe to head or head to toe, we want to do a quick check of us and anybody that's with us to make sure that we keep the red stuff going around and around, not on the ground, and the air going in and out of the 7 holes that God gave us and no other ones. And if we find them, go ahead and address them. Bangity, bangity, bang until I get a desired effect. Okay? I've assessed my work through my sights. So I've fought, I've assessed my work through my sights, I've got a desired effect, and now I need to do my threat scans. We can go into one of those 2 ready positions. I'll go into a high ready, okay? And now I'm gonna do initially that 180 scan, and then 360. And we got number 2 back there. So that's a way that we can test that, or when you're practicing at home, dry fire or with an inert pistol. Okay, so then I've done my threat scans. Now I want to top the gun off, and I'm probably going to do this in conjunction with, if I haven't moved to cover, I'm going to move to cover and do this at the same time. It's one of the few actions that we can do at the same time and kind of task stack. I'm going to stay stationary, but I'm going to do my proactive reload. I know it's an empty magazine, but I'm going to insert and tug, and then this would be an appropriate time after I've topped the gun off and taken cover to access my phone. Okay, so we want to think about phone placement. Okay, I carry mine over here, so I'd have to be muzzle aware, but if we carry it on this side, I can call 911, okay, and send on a cell phone, or we can direct somebody to do that. Okay, and then lastly, while I'm behind cover, I'm going to check and make sure, am I good to go, and anybody that's with me. Okay, so that's pretty much how we implement the faster Wyatt protocol into what we're doing, that mental check. Locked in, go ahead and clear the cover garment and look it back into the holster. Once everybody's back in the holster, I'll know that we're set to go. All right, excellent, excellent. Everybody looks good. 3 rounds to the high center chest, 3 rounds to the high center chest, assess and scan. Threat. Good, scan your world, scan left, scan right, scan to the rear if you so choose. Once it's there, clear your cover garment and look it back into the holster. Again, face your target. 2 rounds to the high center chest. 2 rounds to the high center chest. Assess and scan. Threat. You can do that emergency reload now if you have gone to slide lock. Work right through it. Good. Everybody else, if you haven't done a proactive reload, you put it back into your holster, draw it back out into your workspace, conduct a proactive reload. Once the guns are topped off, go ahead and clear your cover garment, look it back into your holster. 5 rounds in the high center chest. 5 rounds in the high center chest. Assess and scan. Threat. Problem. Take it. Good. And drive the gun out. Okay. Tap up on the magazine. Make sure it's seated. Rack it. Build the grip. Drive it back out. Assess. Continue to shoot. Nicely done. And just keep it 3 rounds to the high center chest. 3 rounds to the high center chest. Assess and scan. Threat. Once everything is right in your world, go ahead and get them in your workspace. Conduct a proactive reload. You know, it's funny. So if you look at my 9, that's me taking my time. If you look at that giant gaping hole in their chest, that's what's going fast. If you do it consistently, but I'm watching your thumb because we crank down on it. That's that little bit of shift over here.
Yeah.
It's consistent, and generally when people shoot off a little bit, they do it consistently. And so I'll get a lot of times with folks, they'll have this great, group that's all right here, but they wanted it in where that bullet is right there. And when I come up and start talking to them, they're like, "Oh, my sights are off a little bit." That's like, oh, I love it when people say that. Because I'll say,
Let me see.
Yeah, hey, do you mind? Do you mind if I shoot your gun? And it got to be a running joke when I worked at the indoor facility down in Nashville. That repetitive students that would come in got to know this, and because I've only had 2 instances ever where it's been a sight problem. And I mean, it was a significant sight problem, like the sight had drifted out and was falling off. Yeah. Okay. Most of the time it's shooter error. It's something with the grip, most like 99% of the time, and then coupled with some trigger manipulation. So, but they do it consistently, so they think it's a sight issue. And when we got to that certain point, and I'd say, "Hey, do you mind if I shoot your gun?" People in the back would be going, "No, don't do it, don't do it." And so I love it when people say that. But it's just, you do it consistently. It's just we're cranking down a little bit, getting that sympathetic reaction in these, and it's just torquing the gun just a little bit. Now, does it make a big difference in the ranges that we were shooting, or the statistical ranges that we talk about? Absolutely not. But it's that cone of deviation effect that if you have that anomaly where you got to make a 25-yard shot, or God forbid a 50-yard shot, then we're a peripheral hit, or we're off the paper because of that. So the fundamentals are the same no matter where I'm at 3 or I'm at 50 or 100 yards. And all of y'all's pistols, except for maybe that little one, that little one is capable. It's just hard. You could shoot at 100 yards and hit the same thing. It's just applying the fundamentals. There's absolutely no difference. It's just a mental game as we go farther back. As we wrap this up here, one point that I wanted to make that I didn't bring up when we were talking about emergency reloads and when we did the draw. The 2 most missed shots that we have. The first one is from the draw to the first shot, okay? Because we're drawing the gun out for a reason, right? They met the preamble, means, intent, and ability, and so deadly force is authorized. I'm adrenalized, and I think I have to go faster, and we throw the gun out there, we disregard the sights and the fundamentals, and we just make the gun make noise, okay? It's what I like to, we don't have any kids here, but what I like to refer to, it's ballistic masturbation. All it is.
I refer to it as the ballistic roller coaster.
Yep, the ballistic roller coaster. So the second most missed shot is when we go to slide lock and we have to conduct an emergency reload, because we call it an emergency reload because it's truly an emergency. Somebody's trying to do harm to me, and now my bang bang isn't going bang bang anymore. Okay, so it is truly an emergency, and what people will do is they think they have to go faster. They drop that magazine, they slam it in there, and they just throw the gun out, and they disregard the sights and the fundamentals and everything else, and they're just making noise. Okay, speed is fine, accuracy is final. Mother Teresa said that. Okay, actually Wyatt Earp said it. Not Wyatt Earp said it. But it gets your attention when we say Mother Teresa.
Well, she meant in regards to diaper changing.
I'm sorry.
She meant it in regards to diaper changing.
Yes. But there's a lot of validity in that statement there. You know, we can make a lot of noise and it doesn't do us any good. So when we go to draw the pistol out or we have to enact an emergency reload, okay, as hard as it is, we have to enact a little bit of tactical patience, take a nanosecond breath, and we have to ensure that our sighting system, whether it's a front sight or a dot, is in an acceptable target area before we make the gun go bang. Okay? If it isn't, exercising that tactical patience, get it to when it is, and then make the gun go bang. Because a little bit slower, accurate shot is going to do you a lot better good than a fast miss and just making a bunch of noise. Does that make sense? It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing if somebody's trying to take our life and we have to skin that gun out to try and exercise that patience and slow down. But we have to be able to do it. We have to find our sights and we have to get good, fast, accurate hits to the high center chest and stop that threat. Not just me.
Trying to be good Samaritan across the street, you miss, all it does is bring attention to you.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So with that, and with no questions, that concludes Covert Protective Pistol 1. Okay. Tomorrow, same time, 8:45, we will be out here doing Covert Protective Pistol 2. So we have some people that are going to join us tomorrow, some that aren't. If you are interested in it, it's great. You are more than welcome. Please come on out. You can sign up on the website, or if you just want to come out, just let us know. You can come on out. We can figure it all out later. But we're just going to continue to add on some more realistic context and more complexity as we go, more pieces of the puzzle, if you will. That being said, I'll ask the same question that I ask at the conclusion of every class. Do you feel better prepared now leaving here than when you walked in this morning? To protect yourself, protect the people you care about.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Cool. If you didn't, I didn't do something, and we need to sit and talk.